You got your first paycheck and felt proud. Then you spent it in a week and felt confused. Nobody ever explained why, but the real reason is far stranger than bad luck or bad math. It starts long before that paycheck. It starts at the dinner table. Picture a 10-year-old girl named Elena. She is sitting across from her father, who is holding a spreadsheet instead of a phone. He is not lecturing her about money. He is asking her a question. If we have $100 this month, where should it go first? Elena does not know the answer, but she is being trained to think in a language most kids never hear spoken out loud. That language is the language of trade-offs. And wealthy families, generation after generation, have quietly taught it at home, long before school ever mentions the word budget. Most households talk about money only when it runs out. Wealthy households talk about money when it is still there. That single difference in timing changes everything downstream. Think about your own childhood. Was money a topic, or was it a secret? For most people, money was something adults whispered about after the kids left the room. Bills were hidden. Worry was hidden. And when money finally did get discussed, it was already a crisis. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman spent decades studying how people make decisions under uncertainty, and one of his central findings was brutally simple. Humans do not evaluate money in absolute terms. They evaluate it in comparison to a reference point. If your only reference point growing up was scarcity and silence, your brain quietly built its entire financial operating system around fear. Wealthy families give their children a different reference point, not more money, a different frame. Here is the twist most people miss. The advantage is not the size of the bank account. Studies on children of first-generation wealth versus multi-generation wealth show something surprising. Families that keep wealth across generations are not the ones with the highest returns on investment. They are the ones with the clearest financial conversations at home. Richard Thaler, the economist who helped build the field of behavioral economics, spent his career proving that people are not the perfectly rational calculators that old economic models assumed. People make decisions based on mental shortcuts, framing, and habits absorbed long before they ever sit down and do the math. Thaler's research on something called mental accounting shows that people treat money differently, depending on where it came from and what emotional bucket they have assigned it to. A birthday gift feels different from a paycheck, even though both are just numbers in a bank account. Wealthy families train their kids to override that instinct early. Every dollar gets a job. Every dollar has a purpose before it even arrives. Now go back to Elena. Her father is not rich in the way you might picture rich. No private jet, no mansion, just a modest house with worn wooden floors and a home office lined with old ledgers. But every Sunday, for 15 minutes, he sits down with her and walks through the family's numbers. Not to scare her, to normalize it. By the time Elena turns 16, she has sat through over 500 of these conversations. Her friends have sat through 0. Is it any surprise that when Elena receives her first paycheck, she does not panic? She has already rehearsed this moment 500 times before it happened. This is the quiet mechanism behind generational wealth that almost nobody talks about publicly. It is not inheritance. Inheritance is the visible layer. Underneath it is repetition. Wealthy families repeat financial decision-making as a habit, the same way other families repeat prayer before dinner or a bedtime story. It becomes background noise, and background noise, over enough years, becomes identity. Consider Warren Buffett, one of the most studied investors in modern history. Buffett has said many times that his habits around saving and long-term thinking were shaped by his father's daily conversations about business and value, not by any single lucky investment. The skill was not a secret formula. It was thousands of small, repeated exposures to thinking in decades instead of days. Compare that to how most people learn about investing. Usually it happens once, in a rushed conversation in their 20s, often triggered by a friend mentioning a stock or a headline about the market. One conversation cannot compete with a childhood of 500 conversations. Here is where the story gets uncomfortable. This is not about blame. Your parents were not withholding this information out of cruelty. Many of them were never taught it either. Silence around money is inherited just like furniture and old photographs. Nobody chooses it. It gets passed down without anyone noticing the box was ever opened. But here is the counterintuitive twist. Elena's father was not born wealthy. He grew up the same way most people do, in a house where money was only discussed in emergencies. He changed the pattern on purpose, as an adult, because he read about a study on financial socialization and realized the conversation itself was the missing ingredient, not the income. Economist Milton Friedman argued for decades that permanent habits shape economic behavior far more than short-term windfalls. He called it the permanent income hypothesis. People do not spend based on what they earn this month. They spend based on what they believe their long-term financial identity looks like. If your identity was built around scarcity, a raise will not fix it. You will find a way to spend right back down to the same anxious baseline. If your identity was built around calm, structured decision-making, even a modest income can feel abundant because your brain is not fighting itself every time money enters the picture. This explains something that confuses a lot of people. Why do lottery winners so often end up broke within a few years? It is not because the money vanished through bad luck. It is because their internal financial identity never changed. Only the number in the account did. The old habits reasserted themselves because habits are stronger than sudden numbers. Now think about your own bank account today. Does it feel like a source of calm or a source of low-grade anxiety humming in the background? That feeling did not start with your job. It likely started decades earlier, at a dinner table very different from Elena's. Robert Shiller, the economist known for studying market psychology and financial narratives, has pointed out that economies do not run purely on numbers. They run on stories people repeat to themselves and to their children. A family that repeats the story, "Money is dangerous, do not talk about it," raises children who freeze around financial decisions. A family that repeats the story, "Money is a tool, let's understand it together," raises children who negotiate salaries, ask questions before signing loans, and build small habits of saving without treating it like self-punishment. None of this means wealthy families never make mistakes. They do. But their mistakes tend to be corrected faster because the conversation never stopped happening. Silence is what allows small financial errors to snowball into permanent patterns. So what can you actually do with this, starting today? You do not need Elena's father's spreadsheet or 15 years of Sunday meetings to begin. You need one repeated conversation, even a short one, about where your money is going and why. Historically, families and individuals who talk openly and regularly about financial decisions tend to build clearer habits over time than those who avoid the topic until forced to confront it. Many financial researchers believe the habit of naming your money's purpose, even for 5 minutes a week, can help rebuild the reference point Kahneman described, one repetition at a time. You cannot rewrite your childhood, but you can become the version of Elena's father for whoever comes after you, or even just for yourself. The habit does not require wealth to begin. It only requires repetition. Because the truth is, the wealthiest families never handed their children a bigger number. They handed them a smaller, quieter, repeated conversation, one your family may have simply never had time for. You got your first paycheck and felt proud. Then you spent it in a week and felt confused. Now you know the real reason was never the paycheck at all. It was every dinner table conversation that never happened before it.